So, conflict is something we often don't think about until it pops up right in front of us. And when it does, how we work through it can really make all the difference in the outcome. Here to explain how we can better resolve conflict is author, speaker, and neuroscience based conflict and communication consultant, Carol Barks. Carol, good to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
And Carol, I'm a teacher in high school, and so I like to share with my students it's always better to have conversations in person instead of text or email. But can you reinforce in general why that's just a good rule of thumb?
Absolutely, I sure can. So, when we talk about the words themselves, when we communicate, are only about 7% of what we are expressing. So, when we're texting or when we're emailing, we're leaving out our tone, we're leaving out our facial expressions, our body language. And so, oftentimes, information gets misconstrued. And when we don't have all the information, we always go to a negative place. And so, that's when we create evil plot twists and things get blown out of proportion much easier than they would otherwise.
Yeah, it's really interesting, especially the different generations, how we can read into a text, or even my daughters will say, thumbs up, that seemed passive aggressive. So let's talk about listening, though. Having face to face so important, but listening is key too. That can be a struggle. We're not always good listeners. How do we become better at that?
We're really bad listeners, in fact. And so, what we really want to learn to do is to refrain from listening in a way that we're just waiting to respond or where we're just trying to think of what we're going to say next. So, instead, what we really want to do is listen to what people are saying and then ask them what I say is the next best question. So, something about what they said so that they know that you've heard them and you can dig a little deeper into what's important to them. Oftentimes, that resolves conflict so much faster than if you just impart your own opinion and start rolling from there.
So many times it's just someone needs to be heard. When it comes to having ourselves heard or getting our point across, is there a better way to do that? Because sometimes in the heat of the moment, things get blurted out. But there are also sometimes you do have to get your thoughts out and get information out there and be heard.
Which is the other part of communication, right? Is we've talked about the listening a little bit, and then the speaking can be really hard because when people get stressed, which oftentimes happens with conflict, we start talking faster and our pitch gets higher. And we tend to start using a lot of words that other people just really can't absorb because their brains are also in a fight or flight type response. So slowing down and softening your tone are really great things. So oftentimes I'll tell people if you think about how you would talk when you were sharing your favorite beverage with your best friend, you talk in a very soft voice rather than an angry, fast voice, and people can hear you better. Also, I would say limit the words.
That is good advice. Okay, so for those of us who don't enjoy conflict, which I think is the majority of us, is there anything we can do to make that kind of day to day conflict easier?
Absolutely. There's lots of things that you can do. And the first thing is to tell yourself a different story. So when we are in conflict, it releases a whole lot of different stress chemicals, including adrenaline and cortisol. And if you tell yourself a different story, then you can stop the release of those chemicals from going out, which can help calm yourself down faster. And if you can also make yourself a partner with the other person instead of having them be the problem, then all of a sudden you're working with that person rather than against them. And it's very soothing to your brain. You can also detach and pretend like you're talking about a problem as if you were coaching somebody else with what they would say. And it helps your brain not have the intensity that it normally would feel if we don't do some of this intervention.
Is that what you mean a little bit when you suggested maybe separate the person from the problem? So we're thinking about the problem or the issue versus kind of attacking the person.
Exactly. So oftentimes when we have a conflict with somebody, we start labeling those people and they're not usually positive labels, right? We say that they're ornery or they're mean or they're pig-headed or whatever we want to say that they are. And in reality, what we really want to figure out is if we were figuratively all sitting at a table. They'd be sitting next to us, and we would be solving the problem on the other side of the table. And so, what that does to our brains is make them a partner in this whole thing rather than an adversary. And so, therefore, we're not shooting down everything that they say just because they're the other person. They become somebody on our team, which then makes it so much easier for us to hear.
Carol, this is great advice. I'm going to take this into the classroom tomorrow. Thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us. And to find out more, please go to carolbarks.com.